Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinema Savvy. It is myself, George, joined once more by Sam for another spoiler discussion for The Last of Us. This week it is episode 6, titled Kin. Firstly, thank you all for sticking with us. We are a bit late tonight. We both know that. We've had some IT issues, and we've been talking about the Titanic to plug our review from last week. Sorry, we just needed to bring that up because I finally got to saw it, and we got to talk about it. So, yes, plugging Titanic before I ask Sam, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good, thank you. I'm definitely better as the evening has gone on. I think I'm well prepared for this. And yeah, lovely to talk about Titanic as well, just to give a final push for that. Although, you never know, next week we'll probably still be talking about it, I think.
I think so as well. It is one of those. And for everybody watching at home who is going to be watching live, if you're watching later on, please do comment below with your thoughts on The Last of Us. It's a spoiler discussion. Go for everything. But as always, we will ask you, please do not drop any spoilers for the game, for people that may be watching it that haven't seen it all. Sorry, people that are watching that haven't played it. I'm still getting used to this. It's so weird because normally it's a book. You just say easy, just don't spoil the book. But with a game, it's a bit different. Obviously, we're heading into that final third now. This is the 6th episode. There's 3 more after this. And then that is the first season done and dusted. So we want to hear your thoughts, especially going on how last week ended. This week, we're making the move into winter. We got ourselves a lovely ending. I say lovely. I've forgotten the word. Cliffhanger. There we go. A lovely cliffhanger ending for today's episode. And it did make me think ahead to what's going to potentially happen in future seasons as well. I don't know if I've just said something I shouldn't have, but that's just me saying that out there if you didn't know. But also, getting out of jail card, let's talk about social media instead of The Last of Us. Twitter and Instagram at cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy, link to Redbubble in the description below. Instagram's fixes errors, so we should be posting back on there properly now because it wouldn't let us post thumbnails for some weird reason for a couple of weeks. It was doing very weird things, and I don't have the time or the patience or the time to be doing multiple edits for
the time and the patience and the time.
Yeah, it's
double time.
It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things doing the social media side of things, and I know you work in marketing, but it is just one of those. Just like let me schedule the video, let me do the thumb, the tags, this, and so Instagram on top of everything else. It's too much. Thank God we don't have a TikTok officially
yet.
Yeah, I say we've got a username on TikTok just in case we ever did go on there and no one can nab it. I don't know if they remove it from inactivity, but there is a Cinema Savvy TikTok. It is literally, you'll never find a post on there. I've never, I think, opened the app.
Yet. We're going to add yet to everything. Like, we don't know the future.
No, we don't. I might end up some weirdo on TikTok. I'm joking, and I'd rather not. The amount of absolute fruitcakes I see from TikTok at some of these press events pisses me off. I'm just going to get it out there now. Everyone who's been to those events knows what I'm on about. The worst kinds of people. They only go there to do a weird real video, not to actually watch what they've been invited to watch. So I'm just going to get that out of the way. Don't want to see any of you all at event. I'm dreading seeing some of them at Star Wars Celebration. A lot of them are lovely. And they're the ones I speak to who are my friends. You know that. Not that
I hate them all, but a lot of them are lovely.
There's the ones from pre-TikTok who went into TikTok, which is fine, but then you got the ones that did it across COVID and lockdown, and I want to be big
before
on
the dark times, before the Empire.
Yeah, it's like Soups. The most obvious one's like Twat Soups, isn't it? But that's the most I'm ever going to shout him out. I really should talk about The Last of Us though, Sam.
Yeah.
Just initially, your thoughts. Sorry, this is going to be not a train wreck tonight, but this is going to be a very different episode. Your thoughts on just episode 5 last week rounded up, and also just initial thoughts on today's, obviously 2 completely different episodes, but just curious for people at home.
Last week, really solid episode. One of the better episodes of the season, but as I said, all the episodes have been really, really good so far. But yeah, I was looking forward to this episode, and I was kind of surprised about how similar elements of this episode was from the game. There was a lot more similarities than I've probably seen in the majority of the other episodes, actually, which was nice. But there was some things that translated so well, and sometimes even better than the game. And just the whole, just plot of this episode specifically, I love. And it's kind of after a pretty heavy, last episode in all sorts of ways. For most of this episode, we're quite a different level than that we've not had before, and a very kind of like comforting, comfortable thing. It's good. It's easy to watch, I think. Since I think it's probably one of the episodes that people could easily go back to, because you dive into kind of real high emotion, but then some really fun bits, and some nice callbacks as well. Oh, I just dropped my pen. So I mean, all around it, I think it's a really just another excellent episode.
Yeah, I'm in the same with you. That I say every week I'm bored of saying it. Obviously, I got to see this all start of January now. Bloody hell, that's quite a while ago now.
Yeah.
And obviously, when you come off the back of episode 5, if you're binging this, if anyone's from the future, you won't be watching this. But if you are, and you didn't watch this weekly, and you did, binge it all at once, episode 6, I don't want to say stands out in a horrible way, but this is an episode that worked a lot better having the gap to air it and having another week to next week, because to me it was done and dusted because I got to go straight to the next episode. So that cliffhanger was lost upon me, and watching it properly tonight really grew on me. The full soundtrack was in. Obviously, it's a work in progress when you're watching that episode. Episode 5 onwards was a work in progress, whether it's CG, not fully rendered, or soundtrack using temp music from other films, etc. This was amazing watching this today. 56 minutes. No infected, no big action set pieces. This was probably the most character development we've had since episode 3 in the context of one episode. Of course, that was for Bill and Frank. A mate was still one of the best. But for this, for Joel and Ellie's relationship, for the story, for everything moving forward for them as characters, even teasing, did we see Dina? Which is a big question being asked online. Was that Dina who Ellie snapped at in that room in Jackson?
Yes.
Yeah. They apparently they haven't said it's yes or no, but I did watch. I think is that a polite Easter egg? Don't do an Ant-Man and the Quantumania and just recast her if that was meant to be an Easter egg. Having Jackson rather than the dam as well. Again, something that we saw properly for the first time in the second game. One of the best changes they've done is removing the dam and putting it here. Great foundation for this to move forward. And I can finally say it now. When I was watching the series for the first time, the moment I saw Jackson, I was like, we're on a multi-season deal now. If they didn't think there'd be a second season, that would be a dam. It would be a lot cheaper than building a replica town or somewhere. So I loved this today. And that second viewing, there was so much more to take in of the performances with the story. And I'm going to give a massive shout out to the director, Jasmila Zbanic, who's nominated for an Oscar and a BAFTA film-wise for International Foreign Film in 2020. But can you bring on someone that's done dramas to do this? I thought was just amazing from my initial thoughts. But I've waffled a lot already. Let's get into the episode as we always do. Do you want to kickstart with the opening scene?
Yeah, although I'm actually having trouble thinking about it now because I'm so totally
It's fine.
stuck in Jackson. What?
It's weird because you have like a cold open, so they get to Wyoming, and then we have the old couple who were in the trailer, and that's what I keep calling them.
Yes. Oh my god, I can't even. But I literally saw a tweet about half an hour ago where it was like this woman had less than 5 minutes of screen time, and yet she is the best character I've ever seen in anything, and she was absolutely amazing. They both were it was. Yeah. I remember we saw them in the trailer, didn't we? And it's all like, where do they come in? Because they're just there. Yeah.
Nothing in the game.
No, there was no reference. So when you see new characters, you get excited about them. And I knew as we got further into the season that okay, they've got to be cropping up soon. And I'm going to presume it's during winter time. So when they cropped up, I was like, yes. And it was just such a weird but kind of heartwarming scene to have, and they're just so chill. They were both just so chill, and I envy the life that they've got.
Can I bring up another Titanic reference?
Absolutely.
So the passing shot when the band are going down the ship, and you get the old couple, which I know is the founder of Macy's, I believe, the real life
Strausses.
Who they were Strausses. That's it.
Yeah.
These two in this episode, they lived at this place before the outbreak. They've just chilled here for 20 years. They're unaffected. If a horde came for them, it's going to be like the Strausses on the Titanic. They're going together. What an amazing couple they were from literally 4 or 5 minute scene. It was really my dad was laughing loads watching this tonight. And I was like, is this going to be his favorite scene of the film? Like, it's almost a cold open, and you know what it deserved? It deserved to be a pre-title sequence.
Absolutely.
Not saying it's like The Office, but if they'd have had that, then played the theme, I think that would have been the perfect opening.
And you absolutely needed something like this after the ending of the last episode, which was so heavy that to get something like that, just kind of like it, because you see the time jump anyway, you see the 3 months, but then to just get something like that, it's just like a bit of a cleanse. You just go, okay, we can continue on. You know, we've these people are moving on, they're getting on with it. We're seeing these absolute characters. Yeah, I mean, it was such a good choice to do because I mean, they easily could have just not done something like this and just gone straight back to what happens in the story. But to just add these and just get a little bit more context, I just think was such a great choice.
No, I'm with you, and it's like as you said, when you have episode 5, you can't just open episode 6 with them like, oh, we're up a hill, we've been found. Let's get the story going. You need to bring the people in ever so quickly but politely, and I think there was just this perfect comedy. I don't think it was intended as comedy, but I said the performance of the actress. Oh God, I've got it here. It is Florence, played by Elaine Miles, just rocking in that chair. Like, is that? Are you telling the truth? Yeah. Are you telling me the truth? Yeah. Like just rocking there back and forth, like you made them soup. Yeah. And what I kind of loved it sort of showed you that the scenario Joel and Ellie are in, they're not bad people. At the end, as soon as these guys clock, they just need to know where to go. You know, he's even laughing at him when he says, "You're going to have to go there. Yeah, you're going to die." And there was something about that scene that worked. That everyone, it's like when we got the Henry and Sam intro. You know, they met them by having a gun to their head. The same with these guys, and I think they knew deep down is these aren't bad people. These are people who need help. But in a world like this, they have to go about it in very different ways to what was known in the past. So it was really interesting in that respect. Unless they're actually cannibals and like in their basement, there's like dozens of dead bodies, and actually it was them who were killing people. Not to.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that.
You'd like to think that they're a very. It's like Up, isn't it? Like they're for this amazing life with each other, just throughout an apocalypse.
I mean, is The Last of Us is essentially just copying Up every other episode, apparently. Yeah, but no, yeah, but no, I mean, they do set up some stuff. They set up like kind of like a mini mystery that lasts for about 10 minutes about what's going on. Are people being killed across that bridge? And is there any kind of like maybe mythical thing or something? It could be anything. It could be absolutely anything, or it could just be a horde like over there. But those questions are kind of answered later on in the episode. So it does make sense for what it is, for what it's doing. But again, they just didn't have to do it. They really didn't have to. But
it's like we know they're going to get to Jackson. You don't want to do it in the opening scene, and kind of that leads us into, I guess, the introduction of Maria, who we know is going to play a bigger role in future seasons. I guess we can say the same about Tommy as well. Now it's official. There's a season 2. You know, if you have played the second game, or if you haven't, and you're going to play the second game, obviously you're going to get characters we were introduced in the first game that survived that one, very few and far between, that are going to get a bit more to do in the second one. But kind of getting into that, this is a really weird thing, but I don't know if it's because it's Planet of the Apes and it's still quite recent mine, but horses on snow in Apocalypse is just a vibe that works. I don't know why. It's always looked great. And, you know, we know this is shot on location. This was shot in Canada. They built Jackson. I know they enhanced it with CGI for some parts of it, but the actual building was in like a real town. Like shops were like dressed up for them to shoot there. Obviously, this was during the pandemic. It was really interesting seeing the approach and kind of going off the introduction of them all, you know, having the riders come in, are they bandits, they're not. I wasn't massive on the scene because I kind of assumed where it would lead, but within itself, I liked this concept that Jackson has to be protected. They have to hide the town as an identity. You know, if you're not going to go with them, it's quite clear what's going to happen to you. And it's really interesting to see how that dynamic worked and heading into, you know, how it functions. Why does no one know about it? I thought it set it up quite well for the Tommy and Joel divide that eventually follows. But what are your thoughts on that interrogation scene to a point, if we can even call it an interrogation scene?
I mean, the introduction was just interesting because you get. I mean, it's difficult because we know what's going to happen, but I guess it's kind of the unknown about what this is. I think, at least for essentially for new viewers, you were getting another group. Who is this going to be? Because we've just had like the Raiders from the last couple of episodes kind of being an absolute nuisance. It's like, oh, again, you're going to get that. So I mean, it's a nice side swipe to then suddenly get like you get Maria's reaction to Joel saying Tommy's name and all of that, and I just find it's kind of, I mean, that's why it's a nice episode to watch and probably easy to go back to, because it's like a sense of hope. Because Jackson, I would say Jackson is kind of like, the hope of what could be. It's probably the best outcome people could have, maybe.
Yes, better than a QZ.
Yeah, or a massive football stadium maybe that we see that we may see in another season or something. I don't know, but no, I don't know. I mean, I really like Maria though in this. I really, really just liked. I think she was always a likable character anyway, and you totally understand her position. But again, it's just nice to get a bit more of a character that we've not spent enough time with, and I'm hoping that in the future we'll get more as well. But yeah, I think. Yeah, I don't know much about the because you can't really call it an interrogation. I mean, can you?
It's like an intro, isn't it? Like, if you fail the test, we're going to kill you. And I guess it gives a bit of tension to Ellie with the whole Joel. Another episode where Joel's got his hands up, he can't do anything. Which I guess played into it about half an hour later with his chat with Tommy, which was really good to on that second viewing, actually. Again, having that gap in between, I think, really helps. And this is the episode you need after episode 5. But if we want to talk about Maria quickly, so the actress Retina Wesley, sorry, I almost said Weasley then. Someone can probably assume I've been playing. Retina Wesley, so I've not watched True Blood, and I know she's a lead character on True Blood, another HBO show, of course. I've really enjoyed her in this, and I've not seen anything she's been in. I thought she held her own against Pedro Pascal, against Bella Ramsey, comes on board as someone, can you trust her, can you not? It's a very typical Last of Us character. Ultimately, she's a good person. She's one of the many leaders of Jackson, but you can tell there's a ruthlessness with her. She speaks about she's elected to the role, binning some of their old stuff, no guns, no this. It's really interesting seeing this community set up, and you got to think to maintain a community of that respect, there is going to, of course, be people who make sure that is there, and it's not like a quarantine zone where it's it's like a military organized, all intents and purposes, Nazi party is, they talk about in the 3rd episode. But I love this concept of Jackson. It's like a haven, isn't it? It's like a hidden sacred place. If you can't get past those wooden boards, you ain't going to know what's behind it. It could just be another town that some people think it could just be an empty town. But I love this idea that they've got the electricity from the dam, which, if everyone's played that first game, you've done that level. But I love just seeing the people. And if I'm going to make a comment about the second game, I remember there's a scene towards the beginning when you're Ellie, you're just walking through Jackson.
Yeah.
And it's not even a cutscene, you're just walking through, but you're taking in everything. And I felt like that today. I think that's also setting Win to that level in that second game as well, actually.
Yeah. Well, it's the sense of community. And I think, getting more of Maria's kind of backstory helps as well. And kind of like her links to kind of make her similar to Joel. So understanding him, but then showcasing what you can do, because Joel has chosen to do things, whereas Maria's chosen to do other things. And clearly, based on her reaction to him and her kind of what happens with Tommy, it's very clear that she's not trusting of Joel at all, and would rather him not be there based on what she's heard, which is understandable. It really is. And, Tommy's going to have told her everything. I mean, they are married. They're about to have a child as well. So, I mean, it's really important that you kind of get a good sense of who she is and why she may be acting the way she is as well, especially towards him. But you can tell she's a good person. I mean, the way she treats Ellie is great. And kind of, I don't know what the correct term is or word for the thing that she gives to Ellie. I don't know if it's.
I don't know either. I didn't have the answer.
We're not the right people for that. But it's just to kind of think about, this person may need this. I think it's a small gesture, but it is a really big thing to do. So it's just I just get a really good vibe from her, and then just the vibe of Jackson in general. I think my mind does go to the second game and just kind of how homely it feels and how good everyone is. Probably with the odd, bad person like we do see in that game as well. But I mean, it's just seeing something actually thrive when we don't see that a lot, especially in this. I mean, you see communities in other, zombie-related media, but or maybe I shouldn't say zombie because apparently it's banned on sets and stuff to say it. But it's just interesting to see different ways about how they come about, and this is such a good mix of a natural kind of like, just a lot of wood and kind of materials like that, rather than like metal and kind of modern materials, but still with modern sensibilities. And I love that kind of combination.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and that's a big thing. And kind of following through that as well, I've been reading actually with the director, Jasmine Zdebanic. She was offered the Kansas City episode arc, and she declined it. She wanted to do this episode. And she said, so in real life, this is quite not necessarily incredible as such, but she lived through a siege when she was younger. So from where she's from, Sarajevo, which I think is Bosnia, or Eastern European area. So she'd survived a siege, which is why they won there for episodes 4 and 5.
Right.
And she actually picked episode 6. And the key for that is that she wanted to demonstrate a functioning society, which helps get them through. And that is kind of what this episode is. When this series is done and dusted and there's all these episodes together, Jackson, this episode today, Kint, immediately stands out because we're seeing a society, I know it doesn't get asked in this, but they could just stay here and never go. They would survive. They've almost got bacon, which is and that's what I kind of love, that this functioning society, that even talk about greenhouses in the corners, you got the animals. It's really interesting, the approach to it. And I think, as you said, it needs an episode like this. And I think they absolutely got it right. And the characters they brought in to do so, bringing in those original ones at the beginning, bringing in Maria. I will be honest, they didn't have to bring her in. But once again, it makes sense, right? Don't save it for the second season. Don't just magically have Tommy rock up with someone pregnant. I love the fact that he's gone to live his life. And if we start talking about Gabrielle Luna, who I loved in this episode, if you look at this, as I was talking to my dad about this earlier, you look at this series as a whole, and not the game, the series, the plot is Joel is worried that something's happened to Tommy, so he goes to get a car battery so he can get out to save his younger brother. Obviously, we get Ellie, we get everything else, but that's the core of where Joel's character progression begins, his character begins. And then we get today, and Tommy doesn't need him. Doesn't need him at all inside. He's not replying because he doesn't care for his brother. He was clearly doing the radio against the town's rules for many years, if that's the case. But because his wife's pregnant, he's making that full commitment to her over the brother. And I kind of love this dynamic that when Joel gets there, he feels invalidated on the spot. And the relationship with Tom and Joel I love, because we don't need flashbacks to see what they were doing for however many years when they were in the firefighters and whatnot. I love the fact that they've spoken about it to other people. People know what they both did. Some believe one more so than the other. And I just think it opened up a really fascinating sibling relationship for the series so far. Is that a bit of an oversight from me?
No, because I think it's family in any kind of post-apocalyptic media is rare. There's usually kind of like a total loss of family, or you may get one or two. It's a lot of chosen family in these sort of things. Like you end up having to just like get on with other survivors if possible and kind of make something out of it. But I loved all of their interactions in this, right from when they saw each other, because I mean, you've not seen Joel kind of act like that in a long time. And I saw people saying, "Oh, it's like the roles are reversed as to what they were doing before," and I can kind of see that. I mean, if we are looking right back to the first episode, it's Tommy going to Joel's house for food, and then it's Joel getting Tommy out of prison. It's the big brother helping the little brother, whereas now it's the big brother is maybe not as up there as he once was. He's now kind of a little bit defeated and kind of just doesn't want to do anymore. Whereas Tommy's very much, I think, kind of probably meeting Maria and being in Jackson has kind of maybe reinvigorated him and kind of given him more of a sense of responsibility than he's ever had before. Which is why, what later on, he's kind of against, taking over from Joel, but he will do it. So I think it just shows how much he's grown. But yeah, the actual conversations between the two of them were just excellent, and it's great to see that all these things that we don't know about, that we've not seen, and again another reference to Tess, and who clearly just was a large part of Joel's life, and we're hearing that from other people, but we've really not seen that much of it. So it really makes you think what happened, how did it go from the two people we saw in the Bill and Frank episode in that flashback to what they later became, where it's very cold and very just kind of all about what we're going to do next, what we're going to do. Like, it's never just about themselves, which is interesting.
No, I'm with you. And it is even the test of bringing Tess up again. One thing the series has done so much better than the game is develop her as a supporting character. That she goes so early. We don't get to see the relationship. And I'm not saying they ever rewrite it, whatnot, but you'd imagine if this was, let's say it's like a drawn out thing like Walking Dead, right? You get 10 seasons, blah blah blah. Tess would be like someone off on the second season, because it's like I'm trying to think of the right. It's a stupid comparison, but you see where I'm coming from. That if they had more time, she's someone they developed to kill.
No, there is, and there in The Walking Dead, there is someone like that where they are killed early on in season 3, yet they are actually one of the main components of the cast and are there from the very beginning. And it seems like, oh, maybe they could survive long term because they are so important to the characters around them. So that to then go is kind of like, what? But even then, that's 3 seasons in. Tess had 2 episodes. But I mean, it does show her importance to kind of the world around and the characters if she is being brought up so much.
And they know of her. We've seen her in the flashbacks of Bill and Frank. And that really, as it was even going back weeks to when we did it, and you said this in episode 3, that you can see that Tess is the one that's in charge of Joel. She's been not playing him, but she is the leader of the duo. He's the muscle, she's the brains. And I think that's something this show's in a great hand. And I feel they develop it a lot. When Joel first says, Tess is fine. He doesn't want to tell Tommy what's happened at all.
Yeah. And
then when he gets to it properly later, they go through it. And I think Pedro Pascal today, this has been his best performance of the season so far.
100%.
From a moment, from actual moment in a scene, probably episode 1, but performance in an episode today. And I thought he was amazing. I'm going to say Gabrielle Luna as well. Now, the pair of them got a lot of abuse when they were cast because it wasn't Hugh Jackman, because it wasn't Bradley Cooper or whoever was the one that was always being thrown around for Tommy, I forget. And obviously because they have Latinx backgrounds, that was something that people went for. The two of them have bloody amazing chemistry, and I'd love to see more of them. And I know we might not get that. We might get that. Maybe we'll get it in season 2. Who knows? But from their scene, the moment they hugged, the screaming of Tommy, his name, him running down, people confusing the area. That's a big moment. And we've built that for 6 episodes now. The 2 brothers reuniting. We've not seen them since episode 1 together, and I just think the pair of them have really good chemistry. And I think they've absolutely delivered with this. I thought it was amazing to see it. And Gabriel Luna's the first one because I've not seen him much. Now I have seen Terminator, whichever one he was in. I just lost track of the titles of the Terminator films. The most recent, Dark Fate, and he was fine in that. But this is his calling, man. Like, he looks great with the long hair. He's got his moustache as well. He looks like a survivor. He's got an incredible blue denim coat that I really want. It reminds me of like a Tom Hardy's one in Dunkirk, but blue. I just think everything that Duo had, and this isn't a criticism of the game because it's tougher for a game to develop it, but that brotherly bond, Jeffrey Pierce and of course, not Neil Druckmann, Jeffrey Pierce and Troy Baker have amazing chemistry within that game of themselves.
Yeah.
But in this, seeing Pedro and Gabrielle together, I just think it adds that sensibility to it that these are two characters, two relationships that have transported from game to series, and it's equally as important. And with the benefit of hindsight, I'm sure these actors know where their respective characters are going to go in the future. Does that go into the performance? I think so as well.
Yeah, and I think just going on with that, I mean, the relationship in the game is wonderful, but again, you're limited by the time and how much is there. Because it's a game, it does take a bit longer to actually, let something kind of sink in and to really form an emotional attachment, which is why the Ellie and Joel relationship is so celebrated in the game, but there's so much time with the two. Tommy and Joel don't get that much time in the game. So even though they get not much time here, because it's an in-person thing, you can feel it way more than you can in the game. And the performances are excellent. And then, we've mentioned kind of like the link to Tess, and we spoke about Maria, but then there's also Sarah, who's been brought up way more than she ever has been before, and kind of like Joel thinking about her, seeing someone who reminds him of her and stuff, and just it's kind of heartbreaking seeing someone who resembles her with a child, and he may be thinking, oh, that could have been my grandchild or something. It's really sad to think of what he's thinking in his head, but he does keep a lot of it in, which is why when he kind of blurts things out and is kind of like sharing everything, it really tugs at you. And I was probably closer to crying here than I've been since episode 3, because Pedro Pascal really sold it. And it was like, because it's the first time that Joel's really let himself say these types of things, it's just a nice change from a character that at this stage you think, oh, he's not going to do anything. At least not in this episode anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And kind of following through that, of course, we get the, this is the bit out of Joel is the speech. It's, I'm weak. I've lost fights. It's Ellie that's having to kill someone. And I love the fact that Joel is still so angry that she, a 14-year-old, had to kill someone to save him. And that's played a pattern. What I kind of love of this is the fact, in the game, Ellie runs off, she gets scared, they both go get her. Fine. You can do that in the game. You can do levels, you can build around it, but you don't have the time for that in the series. And I just love this idea that Joel had to convince him. And he was convinced. And he knows that he is the only person that would believe Joel. He can't tell anyone about it. And I just love where that led to, with Ellie finding out about Sarah in the most, uncomfortable way, just assuming it was someone else's kids. That realization didn't need to tell the story. Ellie just needed to know he had a kid and she died. That explains everything you ever need to know about him, and how they play that relationship into, what is quite not necessarily a time jump as such, but being at the stables the next day. And Joel saying, I want to give you the option of a choice, and just immediately the bag's thrown at him for them to go. It's the right thing to do, but to fit this into 56 minutes, to where we get to the hospital, to the cliffhanger we leave on, this was directed very well. This was written very well. It didn't ever feel like, oh, you're just rushing through. The structure of this episode, I thought, was one of the best of the series so far. And if they get it wrong, if you don't spend enough time in Jackson, or if you spend too much time, then you neglect the other parts at the end, you're going to miss out. But I think they absolutely nailed it today, heading into what we know is the cliffhanger for next week.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked about not the fact that they didn't do the Ellie running off scene, but just the fact that they managed to make things flow without it feeling like something was missing. And I know some people have kind of complained that scene wasn't there, and in a way I understand, because it's leaving Jackson, going into the local environment and finding disused houses, but then it all leads to another attack and whatnot, which isn't needed at this stage, especially with what's going to happen at the end of the episode. So yeah, I thought it was fine, but the fact that they managed to play out that scene, which I think is one of the most important scenes of the game, of Ellie basically confronting Joel and calling him out, and it's not like she's not justified. She's definitely justified in some of the things that she's saying, but she's literally wearing her heart on her sleeve as well in that moment, and Joel's so cold to her. It's really awful. But that makes the fact that despite all that, even when she gets the choice, she still goes him because, she trusts him. She spent all this time. She might love Tommy, but she's not spent months on end traveling across the country with him. And I think she's had to mature in the fact that she now knows a bit more about Joel's background and about Sarah, that at least in her mind, I would think would go, right, okay, well, that makes sense why he's like this. Maybe I should, given the benefit of the doubt in some of those situations where I didn't like him and stuff. So it really just shows off her character. But yeah, the acting of Bella Ramsey in that scene was just, amazing. And, we've already said about Pedro in that other scene with Tommy, but in this as well, just Tom, like, I really in this was like, right, well, they are definitely, if you don't believe that they are these characters now, then I don't know what else to say, because they've been killing it every week, and this has just been, next level.
They've hit that point where, the thing with performances, and this isn't me judging like gamers or anything, but or certainly adaptations, but you have to have character development. And I'm not here to sort of sound like I'm being above others, but in a series, I think me and you both did this many weeks ago. I think maybe it's in episode 1. The show doesn't begin with Pedro Pascal as Joel Miller from the game. It doesn't begin as Bella Ramsey playing Ellie from the game. Those characters get developed when you play the game. The characters that are warmed in people's hearts that people spoke of for 10 years, that's the characters that ended that first game. That's people's experience playing with these characters for however many years and knowing that fully formed image of their head. This one, we have had that across 5-6 episodes of TV, which is this is incredible to have that relationship done in such a short amount of time in comparison to you. And if you do a speed run of the game, you'll still develop a good relationship for them. You do a long run of the game, you want to exploit every shot, pick up every little item, you're going to have an even better developed relationship between them. But to get it right in a series where it's established characters that people are aware of, introducing it to a new audience, the pair of them have absolutely nailed it from start to finish. And I'm just so happy with them. You see them on press tree with each other, and they just seem like they're just genuinely having like a great time. And not that Pedro Pascal would ever get speech. If I did, it's one simple question for me: who survives longest, Baby Yoda in The Last of Us or Ellie in the Star Wars universe? Great question. And I think I'd pick Bella Ramsey because she's just amazing. The pair of them are amazing. And I know that personally, off screen, away from that, the two are very close. And Pedro Pascal is almost playing like a father figure to her, and he's helped her for a very personal time, which is always, I think, really nice to hear. Actors' private lives can be private, we know that. But when actors speak about the importance of their colleagues, and I think the Harry Potter cast is always a big one, don't they? That the whole of not the three, the whole of that cast grew up together. They did school together, did education together. It's amazing seeing the relationships that people in the industry can have when they're looked after at a very young age. And Bella Ramsey doing Game of Thrones age of 13, 14, doing Last of Us age of 17, 18. It's incredible. And I'm excited to see what we get more from her. And even when they're on the horse going across, you're getting that relationship developing more. She's resting her head on him. They're getting a bit more personal about what his life was before. And I'm not going to sit here and say Joel's going to talk about Sarah too, or I don't, but clearly what today's episode or the that relationship, that moment of the pair of them, Joel's going to be more comfortable talking about his life pre what would you call it? Pre the outbreak or the apocalypse? I know it's the same thing.
I mean, I don't know if I would just probably call it pre-infection, but
yeah.
I mean, I think because we call them the infected, I feel like that's like the closest thing you can probably do. But I mean, I totally feel that. I mean, I feel like it's kind of pointless to say, but because it's always so good. But I think the cinematography and some of the shots in this, especially on the horse, was just excellent. Like I saw one of them. I don't know if they're walking away from camera towards the sun, and I was just like, that was just spectacular.
It's like the Last Crusade, isn't it? They're off on their adventures to university.
Yeah.
And if anyone's seen The Fablemans, you all know the importance of a horizon at the bottom or the top of the screen. Spielberg all the way through, which is amazing. But I guess we'll talk about the university.
Yeah.
Again, we know what's going to happen. People at home might not. And I think this was interesting watching my dad today. He's like, oh, how many episodes left of the series? I was like, oh, they think we're done. Like, they think we're here. Obviously, we know what's going to happen.
Oh, yeah. I was like looking at my phone. I was like, there's like 3 minutes left, and like nothing's like
But lengthwise, my dad thought this was like the finale or something, like because you had so much happen, and the university I loved because again, it's a game thing, right? You can explore the rooms in the game, or you can just run into the actual university and get it done. I loved that they just went for the option. It's already gone. Here's the maps. No dialogue. No pissing about. No hundreds of raiders coming at you for the way out. One small group of 5. And what I kind of loved, and this is really bad I've forgotten because I only watched it a few weeks ago, the cliffhanger ending. With the first time I played the game, when Joel goes through and lands on the woods, I know Wolverine dies like that in Logan. Sorry, spoiler alert from 6 years ago, but he gets like thrown.
That's actually the first time I've ever heard that. Actually, George, so you're the one who's just spoiled Logan for me. But
well,
it's fine.
Anyway,
it's fine.
Hugh Jackman's back as Wolverine in Deadpool 2 because apparently nothing's sacred anymore. But him just getting stabbed by a baseball bat and being unaware from it, I kind of like because I don't think that game stuff can work in the series. I think if Joel gets impaled on a giant slab of woods, no one thinks he's going to be okay.
100%.
The baseball bat, great. You can get away with him getting onto a horse and being able to walk out. Getting impaled in that wood, you're not coming away from that. And again, it's the changes they make or equip to TV. With it even being outside, there's no need to fight loads of them. Get on that horse and run. And obviously, we know the implications of the people that they've shot as well. And what you said earlier today, we've had raiders. The last thing we want is to spend time with more raiders today. This is the episode where we're going to get away from that. And I think it was a really smart way in doing that university scene. And it felt like a lot more of a cliffhanger than it actually is. I'm just going to say that. I think I'm allowed to say that.
I think so. I mean, you're right. I mean, we really didn't need to extend this scene. Again, it's another one of those things in the game where it's like, you can spend more time there if you want. You are going to be fighting a lot of people. It's very much kind of kind of optional. But the main story beats still apply, and they were done here. Oh, the Fireflies are not here. Where are they? Salt Lake City. Okay. Oh, there's people here. We need to go. Oh, Joel gets hurt. That's kind of the main thing that you need from this. And as much as I love, because it's so ludicrous, the fall in the game to being impaled and all of that, because I mean, it's so tense, and when it happens for the first time, you are so shocked. But it wouldn't have worked. It absolutely would not have worked in this. I just think it's not believable enough if done realistically. In that translated way. So I think to do it like that, to a point where Joel doesn't know, to then at least it gives Ellie a chance to do some stuff to kind of help him on the horse and to shoot at the others. I think it does enough for her and for him, but I think, a part of the physics of the game is that then you are like, you're in control of Joel while he's on the horse, and it's a really jarring thing, and just getting a little bit of that. I mean, you don't feel like you're doing that yourself, but just seeing him incredibly weak, then like falling off and all of that. I mean, it's awful, but it's the best way to end this episode, because I mean, it's saying what happens now. It's probably the biggest what happens next cliffhanger. But we know, and based on promo for next week, that it is more Ellie centric.
Did they do the promo? I haven't seen the promo.
I've actually not seen. I've not seen the promo. I've seen a screen grab from the promo, and so as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay, well, I knew it probably was going to happen. Now that this episode's happened, I know exactly what the next 3 episodes are going to be. Like, I'm very kind of like I'm quite sure of what the next 3 episodes are going to be and how that's going to be structured out. So yeah, but I think, I mean, it's a great way to end. We love a good cliffhanger, and I'm very excited for the casual audiences, the non-gamers who have no idea what's going to happen. Because I mean, this would be again water cooler conversation at work, in the office. Oh my god, did you see Joel got stabbed last night? What do we like? What's going to happen? It's great.
Could have ended the show. It could have
It could have ended the show. That would have been it.
But I did think this, going back to when we did that video in like November, I was like, surely they're not going to do the whole first game. And through the trailer, you can work out certain storylines are going to be in this series or not. But if they were padding it out, and I'm so glad they didn't, but you could have ended it today with season 1, of they got there. Ah, no, we've got to get to another building on another side of the country. Oh, Joel's been stabbed. Is he going to die? Now, to me, that'd be rubbish. But I'm so glad they're going for that full game adaptation, and that this wasn't, this was an inter-season cliffhanger. We're waiting a week. We're not waiting 2-3 years, because shows can make or break from that, especially again when it's a game that everyone knows. It's like when they killed Superman in Batman versus Superman. That A, no one cared. B, the Justice League was already filming, so they knew he was coming back in 10 minutes time anyway. So it's just one of those silly things. And I'm so glad what they did with the structure with today's episodes, and even just going back to the definition of the title episode, Kin, it delivered on all fronts of that. Opening with a married couple never met, developing Joel and Ellie's relationship, developing Joel's relationship with his brother, then developing Joel and Ellie's relationship again to the next level, setting up where next week is going to go. And, I'm not going to sit here and say ABC is happening, but if you are familiar with a bit of DLC, if you have played the game, you've seen it in the trailer, we're going to get to that point of, the season now, where we're going to get a bit more backstory. I think I can say that. I'm assuming that's what the screenshot was. I'd be surprised if it wasn't, but it is one of them where it does build for next week, and I am excited to see people over the next couple of weeks see how it's like the winter arc, isn't it? Like 4 episodes in winter. It's like heading to that final season. But if I'm going to give my thoughts on the episode as a whole, I love today's episode. I think today's episode is one of the best of the series. It's going to be one that is probably the most underrated episode of the series, because in the grand scheme of things, not much happened. But when in reality, everything happened today.
Yeah, I'm trying to position it in my head, because I know I said last week that it was, for me, episode 3, then kind of episode 1 and episode 5 are kind of tied, or at least in the same area as each other. But I would probably put episode 6 above episode 5, but I don't know if I could put it above episode 1, which is weird. So I probably would put this 3rd ranked, I guess, of the season so far. I just thought it was just so good on all levels, which I feel like you could say about every episode of the season, but it just works out. And I kind of love the familial dynamics and stuff. I love that in these types of stories anyway, and especially when it's people reconnecting after so long and kind of catching up, and what is the dynamic, what's the friction there, where's the love and all of that stuff. And I think mainly just because of what it does for Joel and Ellie's relationship, which really is the backbone of what the show is. So that when that works and hits, then it is going to just become one of the great things of the show. So, just a really excellent episode, and I'm glad that the director got this episode, because I think it worked brilliantly. Yeah,
I couldn't. I've not seen her other work, but I couldn't have imagined 4 and 5 are so different to episode 6. And I love the fact that she's picked this episode, and I think that this episode is going to be one that, if you get today's episode wrong, not only does the next couple of episodes maybe not work as well, season 2, oh no, you've introduced a town in an episode that no one cared, but they didn't. They got it right.
I was going to say the other thing about this is that, more than the first game, this definitely feels like seeds are being planted for the future. There's just little things here and there that, again, most people wouldn't pick up if they've not played the game. But I think those of us who have, and especially if you played part 2, there's things where you can go, oh yeah, well I don't think that was in the first game, or maybe this wasn't referenced, or just really little things. But it will go a long way, especially, when season 2 is done and that comes out, and then people can go, oh yeah, in the first season, this happened, in which then, or if, Dina, for example, who is a really important character in the second game. So yeah, again, just a lot to be excited for. There's 3 episodes left now. Yes. So
we're into that final third now. It's getting a bit emotional. This show is flying, but we wouldn't have everyone's stakes. We know this isn't one of the biggest episodes in the sense. So if you do watch this later, please do comment your thoughts on The Last of Us episode 6. Ken, we want to know all your thoughts on this. If you like the episode, things that might stand out to you, things you're looking forward to, things you're not. And if you do like this video, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. There's a lot more Last of Us stuff coming on the way. We were able to drop the Jeffrey Pierce interview last Thursday. That was a very welcome surprise. I didn't want to hype it before it happened, just on the off chance anything had fallen through. So do check that out. We've got a Last of Us playlist. It's on our YouTube channel homepage. You can find every spoiler discussion on there, our season 1 review, our preview, our interview. It's been an amazing time to be a fan of this series, and it's going to be exciting to see what people think over the next couple of weeks. So do join us each Monday for those. And you want to find out what other videos are coming up, get us on social medias. Twitter and Instagram at @cinema_savvy, Facebook and letterboxd.com/cinemasavvy. Link to Redbubble in the description below. What else is coming up? Cocaine Bear's out on Friday. I cannot wait. I don't think there's ever been more hype on a B film. And unfortunately, season 5 of Drive to Survive is also out this Friday. I say unfortunately, I've not seen it yet. I've had the episode in my account for 10 days, and it just made me realize now I've approximately got 2.5 days to watch 10 episodes. So I've got to get that out on Thursday. And that's the review embargo for any F1 fans who probably are not watching. But aside from that, Sam, it's always a pleasure having you on talking The Last of Us, talking Titanic as well. We'll get that blast plug. And to everyone at home, thank you for watching, for sticking with us, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.